the roadmap, escaping the maze of madness, which is what it is, we should know what they're doing. We should expose what they're doing. But if we don't see the big picture in which that is happening, we'll never find an answer to it. The more we understand the size of the conspiracy, the more we find the answers to the conspiracy. So that's the roadmap.
I've been on the case of this horrific global trafficking ring and satanic and pedophile ring since the 1990s. I first came across it in about the mid-1990s, and everywhere I've been in the world, and it's been pretty much everywhere you could think of over the last 36 years, I've come across the same story. And, you know, if you first hear it, it's extraordinary. Your immediate reaction is, surely this can't be. It's just too evil. But then you come across more and more evidence, more and more people telling you their stories across the world, and you realize that it may be, and it is, evil on a level that's almost impossible to comprehend.
Can you try to explain, David, what kind of evil are we talking about?
Well, we're talking about a global network that is not just trafficking children, and we've seen kind of expressions of this. Of course, we've got the Epstein story in the United States, and in Britain, we've had the Jimmy Savile story, this BBC entertainer who was exposed after he died in 2011 for mega pedophilia. And I investigated the whole Jimmy Savile story, and I talked to people, one of whom was a close friend of Princess Diana for 9 years. And what I concluded from all that is that not only was Jimmy Savile an extraordinary level pedophile, and also into Satanism, because the two are connected, he was also a procurer of children for this network for the rich and famous. I mean, you know, it's almost difficult for people to comprehend, like I say.
Yeah, but David, let me spell this out. There is something like sexual abuse, pedophilia, which is also a relative terminology, because, I mean, a child of 15 is theoretically also too young to have sex with as an adult. But there is a difference between perversy and satanic cult rituals. Are we talking about that kind of level evilness in this case?
Oh, as I've explained in my books over the years, pedophilia, the pedophilia ring and the satanic rings are fundamentally connected. And there's a reason for that. But if I could just go on that Jimmy Savile story, just to give you a feel for how this elite operates. Jimmy Savile, by his own admission, was introduced into the inner circle of the British royal family by a man called Lord Mountbatten. And Lord Mountbatten is a known paedophile, or he's died a long time ago thanks to an IRA bomb, but he is a known paedophile, and he was indeed acknowledged as such in FBI documents. And so he was, Jimmy Savile, a disc jockey. It's what they call a disc jockey in the 1960s. And he was like a BBC program host. And he's introduced into the very heart of the British royal family by this known paedophile, Lord Mountbatten. He remains a close friend of Prince Philip for decades until they eventually fell out. And he remained a close friend, acknowledged publicly, of Prince Charles, now King Charles, to the end of his life in 2011. And when you then realize that this man was a procurer of children for the rich and famous, and that the so-called elite, the royal elite, the political elite, the corporation elite, are involved in this massive global child trafficking, child abuse, child satanic ring, then, you know, there are big questions to ask. Yeah. And if you're looking at the British royal family, for instance, it was known by the British police what Savile was doing. Therefore, it was known by the people, the police section that protects the British royal family. Therefore, it was known by the British royal family quite demonstrably, and absolutely nothing was done. And when he was exposed in a mainstream TV documentary eventually. Nothing was done. There was no questions to the British royal family or anything. It was all kind of covered up from on that level. And that's what you find around the world. Because this elite controls, even owns the media and owns politicians, you have this ability to cover up things when they do come to light, which is far too seldom compared with the extraordinary scale of what's going on. I'll give you a quick example. I was a close friend for a long time of a Zulu shaman and official historian of the Zulu nation, a man called Credo Mutwa. And he was telling me, even in Africa, in the village that he lived in, that they were having men as a kind of a protection unit for children because their children were being stolen and disappearing. And, you know, back in the 1990s, I was investigating a situation in which a lady had her children taken away from her. And I got into all the investigation of that, taken away by the state. And I started to ask the question, how many children go missing in the United States every year? And I called the federal government agency to start with, and they told me that they didn't keep the figures, and I would have to call every state to find out what the figures were. And I think I ended up calling about 10 different state authorities. And by this time, I'm in a fantastic number of children that go missing. And one of the things that kind of stops people seeing the scale of it is that they perceive the number of children that go missing with the number of missing children stories they see in the media.
What happens to all these children? Where are they?
Well, there are explanations, non-satanic, non-pedophilia explanations for a number of them, but not for all of them or anything like all of them. And I was investigating in the United States particularly, but then expanded around the world in the 1990s or from the 1990s, this whole area of mind control and Satanism and pedophilia, all of which are connected, as the film very much shows. And I was talking to children who'd been involved in these satanic ceremonies and these satanic rituals against their will often, And they told me around the world a very, very common picture, a common theme, a common description of what goes on.
So there are similarities worldwide.
Oh, all over. If wherever you go, you find the same story.
And what is it? Is it a religion? What are they doing? Why are they doing this? I mean, a healthy person would never do something like that, I assume. So are these psychopaths, or are these people that are being blackmailed? Are these people from a different dimension? What is this? What are we dealing with?
Well, all of the above, really. I mean, are they psychopaths? No, they are super, super, super psychopaths. And if you look at the definition of a psychopath, the top two traits are lack of empathy and lack of compassion. Now, if you are going to abuse sexually and otherwise a child, and indeed at the extreme, you're going to be sacrificing a child in a satanic ritual, then the two traits absolutely you must have is a complete deletion of empathy. So you cannot put yourself in what you're making others experience, and a complete lack of compassion. And what I then started to do, as I talk about in the film, is look at how long this has been going on. Because in the early 1990s, when I was starting to investigate, who controls the world, basically, I put together this structure whereby it's what I call the global cult. It's a global network of secret societies, fiercely compartmentalized. So most people in them don't know the big picture of what they're part of. And I then started to see that key people in this cult, many of whom were in positions of authority, politicians, royalty, all of this stuff, that they were involved in satanic ritual, and they were involved in human sacrifice ritual, often of children. And of course, you then ask the question, why? What's all this about? And then you start to go back into the ancient world, and you see that they were openly then, because it was part of the culture, sacrificing young virgins, children, to the gods. And then you ask yourself, okay, they're sacrificing children as a gift to the gods, as they called it. So what do the gods get out of this then? I mean, what's happening? You then realize that right across the world, there are, in every culture, there are pantheons of gods, and there have been since the ancient world. We know the obvious ones, like the Greek pantheon, Zeus and so on, and the Egyptian pantheon, the Roman pantheon, but they all had these pantheons of gods. And then I contrasted that, or compared that, with the fact that as I talk to these Satanists and former Satanists, the Satanists against their will and former Satanists, and they talk about the fact that the elite today, exposed in this movie, in this film, are also sacrificing children, adults sometimes, to their perception of the gods. And what you realize eventually is actually all these different pantheons that are called different names because they're different languages and different cultures are actually the same entities.
Yeah, but do you believe that their gods that they're sacrificing to, that they really exist? Or are these just psychopath lunatics that are confused with ancient ideas? Like the Romans, they also sacrificed animals to the gods, and they believed that that would help them to have better crops. So it's also a way of maybe people are confused. What is the right way to live their life? Or do you also believe that these gods, these powers actually exist?
Not only do they believe they exist,
Or do you believe that they exist?
Yes, they are psychopaths, but they're not idiots in the sense of worshipping something that doesn't exist.
No, but do you believe that what they worship, does that exist?
Absolutely. Yes, I absolutely say they exist. And what I've been doing over the years, you see, when you're researching, the key thing is that you never stop going deeper and deeper in the rabbit hole, because you know that whatever you know, there's always more to know. And so you keep pushing and keep pushing. And when you do that, when you don't just stop and think, I've got it now, but you say, okay, what don't I know? Why do they do this? What's the background to that? You go deeper and deeper in the rabbit hole. And then you start to enter extraordinary revelations that to the mainstream sense of normal is just fantastic and impossible, but it's not. It's happening. They just don't want us to know it's happening. And you start to realize that this global cult network that manipulates and directs the direction of human society into greater and greater dystopia, by the way, quite blatantly now, is actually orchestrated from another dimension of reality. Because, you know, if you can keep from people the nature of reality itself, you pretty much got them. I mean, if I said to people, when you look through your eyes into the space you're looking at, can you see everything in the space you're sitting in, standing in? Most people would say, yeah, of course I can, mate. No, you can't. This is mainstream science. The only thing we can see, or the only frequency range that we can see, is a tiny, tiny band of frequency that science calls visible light. Anything outside of that band of frequency, we can't see, but it exists in the same space that I'm sitting in now. It's just that we can't decode it. And so these entities are operating from another level of reality that interpenetrates this one, but is on a frequency that is beyond human sight and beyond human perception. And these are the gods that the ancients and these modern psychopaths are actually doing their sacrifice to. And then you ask the question, why? You've got to keep asking that question. Why? And I have learned over the years that these entities are feeding off low vibrational human energy. The energy that is, and this is well known by mainstream science, that whenever we think or we are feeling an emotion, expression and emotion, we're giving off a frequency, we're giving off energy.
Is that why spreading fear is so dominant in the world?
Well, this is the point. You know, people who can see this at some level, they say the world is controlled by fear. Well, yes, it is. But it's not just to control in the sense that, okay, I'm frightened, so I'll do what they tell me, which is how people perceive authority most of the time. It's also the fact that these low vibrational emotional states all around the base emotion of fear, anxiety, depression, resentment, regret, hatred, conflict, war, they're all generators of this low vibrational energy. And that tells you something immediately, that these entities have no interest whatsoever in a world of love, in a world of balance, of harmony, of joy, because it's not, people in that state do not give off this energy that they can absorb. So I came across the work of a guy called Robert Monroe. Robert Monroe was a kind of media executive, radio executive. And he had this gift of what they call astral traveling. He was able to project his consciousness into this astral dimension, which is where these entities operate from, and experience it. And he kind of popularized it in a series of books. And the American military became very interested in it. And they developed a program they called Gateway. And what they did was get together Monroe and these other people that had this same astral projection gift. And they did this study. And some years ago, the CIA declassified the report, and it makes extraordinary reading. First of all, they confirm that what people call reincarnation is true, is real. They also gathered evidence from these various astral projectors that they were coming across so many reptilian entities in this astral dimension that the Gateway Project, a US military psychological project, came up with the term the alligators to describe them. Oh, they've seen more alligators. And what Monroe was saying, and others I've come across have said, is that they learned in these astral projections that these entities are feeding off low vibrational human energy. Now, this takes us to the subject of the film. And the question, why are they making these human sacrifice gifts to the gods? What do the gods get out of it? Well, what they're doing is orchestrating rituals to elicit, understandably, maximum terror in the victim, because terror is an extremely powerful low vibrational energy. And what happens when the terror reaches a certain point is it creates a chemical reaction in the body that releases adrenaline, a very powerful adrenaline, into the blood. And this is what the Satanists drink.
Is that what we call adrenochrome?
It's what we call adrenochrome. Yeah, this is real, and it's this it's blood laced with this very powerful adrenaline, and it gives them a high. I mean, people I've spoken to around the world who've experienced these rituals and have observed these rituals. They say that when these Satanists drink this adrenaline-laced blood, they go crazy. It's like gives them a high. It's like an elixir to them.
But let me put this clear. So it's in the end, it's human beings drinking this blood. It's not those other entities.
Oh yeah, but hold on. There's the other level of this ritual is this. You know, if you were in a real extreme emotional state, if you were terrorized, I would see from your facial expressions and your body language that you were terrorized. What I wouldn't see, because it's outside of visible light, is the energy you're giving off in the form of that terror. Why? Because that energy is an astral phenomenon. It's going into the astral dimension. And these entities that oversee these rituals are then in the astral dimension. They're feeding off this energy of terror that the sacrificed person is giving off. And that's the gift to the gods that the ancients talked about. And it's this network is so vast, and yet you hear about it so little, because if the elite are massively involved in it, they have the power to cover up the fact that it's going on. That's why it comes to public attention so little. But when you go one step back and you do the research, not mainstream media research, but you talk to the people involved, then you realize the scale of it. It's absolutely fantastic. And I'll tell you this, mate, the Netherlands is one of the great centers for it. So's Belgium. That's why you had the Dutroux case some years ago, which came to public attention, and they shut it off. They let Dutroux be jailed, but the real elite that were orchestrating it, and he was a gopher for, they were all protected. And this is what happens all over. This is why Jimmy Savile was an inner circle bosom buddy of the British royal family, but the British royal family got away without question, even though he was exposed for the extraordinary level of pedophilia he was involved in.
Yeah, let me ask you a very serious question. I don't want to insult you, but if this all is true, why are you still not assassinated?
Well, you know, if you look at my background, when I came out with all of this stuff and so much more in the early 1990s, I was subjected to a level of ridicule that was historic in nature. I mean, I couldn't walk down any street in Britain without being laughed at, pointed at. A comedian only had to say my name, no joke necessary, and they'd get a laugh. But I've kept going and kept going. And what that initial ridicule did was give me, if you like, a protection. Because if this perceived mad, crazy man is saying this stuff, well, that's good, because it'll just destroy the credibility that is real anyway. But what's happened is, as events have unfolded and things have come to light, and more people have started to research this and all the other stuff I write about, suddenly people are going, well, maybe he's not so crazy. But I've now published so many books about all of this stuff and so much more, like I say, that, if they took me out now, it would actually be of little benefit to them, because it would get people to look at, so what was he saying then? And so it wouldn't be good if they did. But, let's not just accept, for instance, that when you come out with this stuff, they take you out. Maybe there are other forces at work that make sure you're not taken out. This is not a one-way traffic. This is not just the psychopaths running everything. There's also another energy, another consciousness that's pushing back against it. And but there are, of course, many people over the years that have been taken out. But the ridicule has been my protection, really. But also, when the ridicule didn't work, they switched to abuse and demonization, which is why I'm currently banned from the Netherlands and thus around 30 other Schengen countries. It's why I'm banned from Australia. If you keep speaking your truth, and it has validity, and it's being shown more and more to have that validity, then it's a power in itself. When you take all the abuse, you take all the ridicule, but it turns out to be more and more confirmed, because then people go, well, hold on a minute, maybe that guy's not so crazy. And that's what's happening now. And thank goodness, in terms of the subject we're talking about, because it's so fantastic that most people will just dismiss it as just fantastic. But it's actually happening, and we need to face it, because if we don't, then these kids will go on being abused. They'll go on having their lives destroyed, and they'll go on, in many cases, having their lives taken away.
Yeah. And I just visited Koen Vermeeren. You might know him. He's one of the guys that also talks a lot about the UFO cases all over the world. And he just translated your book, and we talked about it in one of our shows. So your book is being translated to Dutch.
Yeah, it's called The Roadmap. It's out now. It's available in Dutch now.
Yeah.
And that basically connects everything from what's happening politically right through the pedophilia, the Satanism, and crucially what's happening now, which is the takeover of the human mind with AI and the digital dystopia.
If you want to read more and watch more of my content, then go to the description under the video where you can buy my books. The latest one is The Roadmap, where you can get tickets for public events, and how you can subscribe to a fantastic video channel called Iconic, iconic.com.